And welcome back to MMAnytt Studio MMA right here with Daria Bernardo. And we got Matt Lopez and Khalil Rountree as well. Welcome to the studio. How are you guys?
Good, man. Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
So you guys are getting ready for RFA in South Dakota. Have you guys fought outside of California? You're not from California originally, but have you fought away?
Arizona's the only other state I fought in. Because I'm from there.
Yeah. Right.
And you fought in Vegas,
yeah. Right? Most of my fights were in
Tough
Vegas.
Enough?
Tough enough, yeah. King of the Cage. One King of the Cage.
King of the Cage amateur.
Amateur,
right?
yeah. Like Future Legends 2, I think it was. Like one of their first amateur shows in Vegas.
Wow. You had quite the amateur career, right?
Yeah. That was a long, fun career, yeah.
Tough Enough's no joke. It's like the pros of amateur, right?
Yeah. Especially for us when we were coming up. You know, it was like the peak, you know, like Barry Meyer was the guy who started it.
Right.
And he just knew what to do, and he marketed us well, and like the locker rooms were pro style. Our walkouts, we had our name in lasers of the arena. Like it was just the whole the whole 9 yards as an amateur, you know. So
better than some pro promotions.
Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
I
for
get
sure.
But you're fighting for RFA now, so I'm sure that's
it's
a
definitely
step up.
Yeah, it's a step up, and it feels like home. It feels like where I've come from.
How was your amateur career?
Didn't have one.
There was wrestling. Was your
wrestling since I was 4 years old, so that was pretty much my amateur career.
4-time Arizona state champ.
Yes, sir.
And then you moved from Arizona to Los Angeles or to Riverside, correct?
I went from when I was wrestling at ASU, and then I transferred over to Cal State Fullerton, and I started wrestling here, and then I got in touch with Mark Munoz. Well, first I got in touch with Dominic Cruz, and I was going to move down there to start training. But
what made you change your mind?
The atmosphere. The way I was a little bit more comfortable with the Rain Training Center rather than Alliance. Alliance had some studs, but I just I felt like home in Lake Forest. I had already established a relationship with Mark.
Yeah.
So it was just a little bit better. A couple of my teammates were training down there, but I've known Dominic since I was like 6th grade maybe.
Even sound like him a little bit. And Black House. The Black House has always been home for you, right? Or the
last about year and a half now has been home. And now recently Anderson's Muay Thai College, they've taken me in completely and shown me a lot of love there. So those two together, it's been perfect.
So there's been a lot of hype. You're 2-0 as a pro. You were 6-0 on Shota. We just spoke about that, but actually 6-1 as the decision that you lost. And then Anderson Silva he tweeted that you're like his younger brother. You have what it takes to be the next champ. At 2-0 as a pro, do you feel that it comes with a lot of pressure having someone who tweets that out to 6.5 million followers on Twitter?
Yes and no. I mean, it comes with a lot of pressure, but that's what I'm here for, man. You know, like I think at 2-0 right now, I would be okay and comfortable with if they threw me and had me fight a top 10 fighter. You know, just like emotionally and spiritually, I just feel okay, you know, with it. So, it's good because that's what I'm here for. I'm here to establish, you know, a name for myself and really just apply my craft and my hard work to MMA. And so. It's almost like fuel, you know, like I think about that all the time and every day, or, you know, whenever I talk to him, he mentions things like that. So it has me work harder, you know. There's a pressure, but with the pressure comes a lot of hard work, a lot of focus, a lot of dedication, and I love it. Like it's drive, man. That's all it is. And
your nickname is War Horse, and we spoke about that drive, the fighting spirit in wrestling before as well. What is it? Where did you find it? When did you realize that you had it, and what is it in you that drives you?
So, you know, like where that came from, my brother gave me that name, and there was a point where I think I might have been training for almost a year before I had my first amateur fight, and I came from Wanderlei Silva school, and at the time I think he was getting ready for like Chris Lieben or something like that. Someone he was getting ready for, and he needed a sparring partner, and he was in the cage at his gym, and he's like, "Hey, Khalil, come on." And I'm like, "Oh gosh." You know, like I saw the guys before me that came up before me, like the guys that he brought in, I saw them and what they went through.
Right.
And then there was that day that I showed up to sparring where it's like I almost got crowned, like, "All right, you're ready to take an ass beating," type of thing, you know. So I'm like, "Oh man."
Oh god.
And so, you know, my coaches closed the cage, and you know, I think that day we went 5-minute rounds.
Wow.
Just
Five
like
fives?
just like it was a title.
Wow.
And it was tough, and he beat me to the ground, but he never gave up on beating me. And it was almost like a test, you know, like every time I got knocked down, he would punch and punch and punch and punch and punch and punch, and I realized he's not going to stop, so I've got to find some way to get up. And that's just kind of how it started, man. And then so, like, I looked at him in his face, and I just, like, that's where I really felt like I became a man. Like, I was 20 years old. I wasn't even 21 yet, and it was just, like, I actually get emotional thinking about it. You know, it's like, that day I had to pull something else out, you know, like I had to reach deep down inside and grab something, and I just came forward at him, and it was bad. It was a bad day that day at the gym, and good, but, you know, very, very, like a big battle. And after that, my brother's like, you're like a war horse, you know, like you just kept coming forward. So.
If 5-minute rounds of Wanderlei Silva doesn't make you a man, I'm not
Hey.
sure.
Yeah.
Did you have an lightning like that?
No, I just ever since 4 years old, I've always felt like I was a competitor.
Right.
You know, the way I wrestled, the way I approached wrestling, the way I approached, you know, competition was always the same. Almost like a cage fight. You know, I took that same approach. You know what I mean? I got to beat them into submission.
Was it an easy transition for you?
I wouldn't say easy. When I started doing stand-up, I had the mentality of a wrestler, and when it wasn't coming as easy as wrestling was coming to me, I would get super frustrated. Till this day, I still get super frustrated when I don't pick things up the way as fast as I would like to do it. You know, so other than that, you know, jiu-jitsu, it's you know, pretty seamless. But I think my striking, that was at the very beginning. That was, you know, finding who I was as a striker was pretty difficult.
Did you always know that you wanted to be an MMA fighter, or when did you look at it and say, okay, that's what I want to do?
When I saw the people having success around me, that I was kicking their ass in wrestling. So
Good answer.
These people, you know, that I've wrestled with across the country, you know, countless people that I've, you know, handed their ass to, and I get it, MMA is different than wrestling, but I take that same mental approach. You know what I mean? If I can beat them in wrestling, why can't I beat them in fighting? They came from the same, you know, background. They were wrestlers. You know, they had to progress in their striking, and now look where they're at. You know what I mean? So a lot of that's some of the reason why. And you know, when I wrestled, I was kind of an asshole. You know what I mean? I and that was fighting. It was fighting to me without throwing punches. You know what I mean?
What about you, Khalil? Are you a nice guy? You
Yeah.
seem like a nice guy outside the cage, but I've seen you inside of the cage.
Yeah,
A lot of
it's two
knockouts.
different people, man.
Mhm.
It's two different people. I hated fighting growing up. The first, when I was a kid, I was playing football with my brothers. I had two older brothers. We were playing football out on the golf course, and
Out on the golf course?
Yeah, we had a golf course like in our backyard in Vegas. It's really weird. So there's a golf course behind our homes, and we used to play football there during the weekend when it was free. But there was one time a kid that was like way older than me was bullying me, and I was a nice guy, you know, youngest boy. My mom babied me a lot, and my brothers were like, "You're not gonna let this kid bully you. Like, you need to go and you need to fight him." And I'm like, "Oh my God, are you serious? Like, are you serious? Like,
What
I
was
have
his
to
name?
do this."
Wanderlei?
I don't remember, but it was so I remember, like, I'm at home and I'm sitting on the couch and I'm like rocking back and forth, like, wow, I really have to do this or else my brothers are gonna, you know, beat me up. So my brother comes in, he's like, "Are you ready?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm ready." So he like takes me down.
Like the commission's
Yeah.
bringing you out.
Yeah.
The commission's
Down.
bringing you out to the
Exactly.
fight.
I remember walking along the fence of the golf course. We used to stay to the side because just in case there was a ball, we would duck. You know? So like I'm walking down and I see the kid there and he's like talking with his friends, you know, hands on his hips, you know, like just the kid was a badass. And my brother, he was like, "All right, here's your time. Like, you know, you go and you show him that you're not a punk." And I'm like, "Oh gosh, all right." So I go up to him. And he's facing his friends. There's a circle of them, so I'm thinking all kind of stuff. But there's a circle of them, and he's standing there, and I'm like, "Hey!" And I tapped him on his shoulder. He turned around, whack! Just one good punch with everything I had, and he didn't fight me back. He just like, I just remember him holding his face, and he was like on the ground. And for me as a kid, like that damaged me. I'm like, I hurt this guy.
Yeah.
it was pointless. Why did I do that? So it damaged me. Like, that was the moment in my life where I was like, I'm not going to fight ever again. Look what just happened, you know? And so growing up, I was always, I was a nice guy, man. I played music. I kept to myself. Nice. You know, like, still am introverted, you know, like, I spent a lot of time alone, and never played sports in high school. Like, I was always the kid, you would walk by the lunchroom and I'm just sitting there with my iPod on or whatever. So I never had a fighting background. And at first I wanted to lose weight. I was 300 pounds after high school. Wow. Yeah, and I stayed within music, and I traveled with my friends who were in bands at the time, and I traveled around the country with them and sold their merch for them, and got to see the world, or got to see the country and Canada. And there was a time where I had a feeling like I need to do something for myself. I'm following other people's dreams. I see how happy they are. I need to do something different. At the time, I was, like I said, 300 pounds. I smoked a lot of cigarettes, and at 19 years old, I felt like I was gonna die health-wise. You know, just really unhealthy life. So my brother, who started training at Wanderlei's, he had a shoulder injury, and I wanted him to go back in training, and you know, and I wanted to get in shape. So I'm like, I'll go with you. I'll give it a shot, you know, whatever. And it just kind of started from there. I joined a gym, and just how anybody else joins a gym, just start training, and ended up loving it and being good at it.
It's crazy.
I've heard this story before, but I'm glad you shared it, and it's crazy to see you coming from 300 pounds, not just for MMA fans, but just for general viewers, to see what's doable. So you guys come from two complete opposite worlds, right?
It's crazy to hear him, you know, not being like a in competitive sports or anything like that, and then, you know, having the skill and level that he does in the cage. You know, we fought on the last card, and I saw his last knockout, and you know, you would never know that he didn't do any kind of any kind of sports like that. You know, anything.
No,
you know, that's crazy.
And
in so little time.
Yeah, and going in, like I said, in Vegas with Wanderlei, who's, you know, a legend in the sport. When did you realize that you have what it takes? Except from going in there doing, you must have realized before 5-minute rounds, 5-5s with Wanderlei, that hey, maybe I can take this a step further. And when did you make the transition out to Los Angeles?
So when I realized that I had what it takes is after my third fight, amateur fight, and that was the fight that I lost by split decision. And the first one was a TKO or whatever. The second one was a knockout, and I'm like, it can't be this easy. It can't be. And so the third fight, I fought a guy who was coming in and making his debut, and I'm like, well, I have 2 fights, you know, I'm so big-headed already. And I'm like, I have 2 fights, I knocked these guys out, blah, 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 this is easy, blah. And the kid that I fought was tough, and we went all 3 rounds, and I know that had I not been so big-headed going into that fight and really just respected him, and just respected that there's another man coming in here to fight, then like I would have won. But also, like, that's where I decided, like, I've got what it takes, because I didn't give it everything I got. So then my 4th fight after that was a title fight for Tough Enough. And then, like, when I went in there with the emotion of, like, there's another guy in here, I'm gonna give it my best shot, and then the same thing happened with him. It was like just kind of like a fast TKO, and I'm like, okay, now I know what it takes to have the fight go the way that I want to go. It's just, you know, realizing that it doesn't matter about the guy. It's just like there's another man going in there to fight me, and so it's really just all about me and what kind of place I'm in. You know, I'm not really focused on him. I'm focused on what I got to do, and if I want the fight to go my way. So that's just kind of how it went. And I moved here to California February of last year, and
full Black House.
Yeah, no. So, crazy story. I left Wanderlei's because one of our coaches, he split and he went his own way, and the whole team followed him. And my loyalty to Wanderlei stayed there with him in his gym, but I realized that I couldn't train alone. My whole team was gone. So for 6 months, I quit fighting. I just didn't train, I didn't do anything, and I just worked at OTM. And then so in that 6 months, I just decided, like, okay, whatever. It was fun while it lasted. I think I'm done. and I knew that I didn't want to be in Vegas anymore because that's where all my history in fighting and everybody there knew me as a fighter. So I'm like, I'm going to move to California and start a new life. When I did that, I called, or my boss Scott called me. He's like, hey, what's going on? And I just said, hey, I'm moving to California. He's like, really, you are? And I'm like, yep.
Oh, Jam Scott?
Yeah. And I didn't even know. I didn't know where I was going, who I was going to live with. I'm like, yeah, man, I'm moving to California. And he's like, oh, cool. We need a manager at the Torrance store, and you're killing it in Vegas, so why don't you come out to Torrance, and you can have a job here. Cool. I'll be there in a couple weeks. Got here. He's like, hey, are you training? I'm like, no, I haven't trained in a while, man. Like, you know, he's like, well, why don't I call my boy Ed and see if you can get in the Black House and train with him?
My boy Ed.
Yeah.
Scott's boys with everyone.
Yeah, exactly. And then I'm like, oh, yeah, sure, why not? I mean, like, I can train. You know, I was in a different setting, and that's how it started, man. So I was done fighting. In my mind, moved here to California, started working for OTM, and Scott introduced me to Ed, and then I started training there, and then things just started taking off again.
Could you ever see your life without fighting for that long again? Or is it something that's so ingrained in you now that you can't see it without it?
I could definitely see my life without fighting again.
Really?
Yeah. I mean,
I guess that's a good thing,
this is something.
Yeah, that's true.
This is something that you know, I don't really share with too many people, but right now is the perfect moment. Like, I would love to be done with fighting completely in about 5 years.
Really?
By the time I'm 30. I would love to give this the best shot that I have now. And, you know, by the time I'm 30, if I've made, you know, a good success in it, then whether I'm on top or on bottom, I plan on being done. This is like, I'm 25 years old. I just turned 25. So the next 5 years of my life, while I'm young, while I still can, I'll give this my best shot.
Bernard Hopkins done or done?
Like done. Like done, like completely done.
Right.
And yes, I don't like fighting. I told you guys before, like, it's just not something that I like to do. I hate it.
Yeah.
I'm afraid of it, but that's why I do it. It makes me, every time I fight, something different comes up in me. You know, like, I grow as a person. My character changes, and it makes me realize that there's so much more that I can do. If I'm deathly afraid to step in the cage, then everything else in life becomes easy.
I agree.
So true.
It's very true.
Matt, you've been a lifelong competitor. So hearing him say this, what is your take on fighting? Are you like, I'm going to fight till, you know, like Chris Lieben, fight forever? You want to be a veteran in the sport? What's your plan for fighting?
No, it's like he said. I only have this, you know, body for so long. By the time I get to a certain age, you know what I mean, things are going to start to deteriorate.
Right.
And I want to take full advantage of it. I don't want to be that guy that's like, you know, 45 years old, you know, second guessing if he could have done this. You know what I mean? I don't want it. There's plenty of opportunity. You know, I have a college degree. There's plenty of opportunity to go get work and do all that stuff. You know, for the next 30 years. Do whatever, but right now this is something that I enjoy, that I'm passionate about, you know. So I might as well just jump on the train and, you know, see where it takes me.
Do you feel that so you guys come from such different backgrounds,
right, that
the training that you have, do you feel like your body has already taken a certain toll versus someone like Khalil who has not at all, even though you had the experience? What's your thought on that?
I do. I feel like an old man already. I really do. I've had an ACL surgery. I've had meniscus surgery. You know, tore my pec and my bicep. Oof. You know, so I feel like wrestling since you're 4. You know, that's a lot of years. And it's not like I wrestled for like 3 months and then took, you know, the way we did it is we wrestled all year round. If you want to play baseball, you better find some extra time to play some baseball, because wrestling is, you're still going to wrestle. So it's not like I took it. I can probably say in my whole life, the most I've taken off is like 2 or 3 months at a time from wrestling, like throughout my whole career.
That's crazy.
Wow.
So it's been it's a beating, and you guys know how wrestling is. You know, we were talking about it downstairs, and you know, some of his wrestling partners. It's a grind. It's a tough sport, but I think I've fared well opposed to some of the other guys that have been wrestling as long as I have, and you know what I mean. They're walking like old man, their hips are out of place and stuff like that. But I think that contributes to my style as well, and my style of wrestling as well.
Do you think that you're obviously a little bit biased, but between, you know, the main sports of boxing, kickboxing, jiu-jitsu, wrestling are the main sports that make up mixed martial arts, do you feel that wrestling is the most important
No.
most important sport? No? What about in your game?
In my game, it's not the most important to me because I need to learn how to box. You know what I mean? The most important thing to me is learning how to stand up. You can't just walk across the cage and try to shoot in on somebody. Some people can, you know what I mean? But I don't want to be that guy. It's mixed martial arts, you know what I mean? So I think, you know, with the exception of, you know, you can negate some jiu-jitsu by having a good wrestling defense or something like that. You know what I mean? So I think it's kind of a yin and yang kind of thing. It's a give and take. But for me personally, I think I got to be even on all levels. I don't think it's got to be my wrestling's the most important thing, or wrestling's the most important thing. I think it's probably one of the, you know, it's probably one of the harder things to attain as far as MMA. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I can go in there. Like, I feel like I've gained leaps and bounds in boxing in the couple years that I've been training. You know what I mean? I don't think anybody will ever come close to the wrestling that I can do. You know what I mean? In their MMA career.
Right. So how about the reverse? Does it being able to rely on it, saying no one's going to take me down, and even if they do take me down, I'm going to stand back up because of my wrestling background.
Right.
So therefore, I can put this to the side and focus on the other sports.
I don't. I wrestle every day.
Really?
Every single day I wrestle.
That's interesting.
I have 2 high-level high school wrestlers that I'm talking. One was ranked number 2 in the state. The other was ranked number 3 in the state of California here. And they're both around my weight. One wrestled 138. The other one wrestled 132. But they push me. They push me every day. Every day they come for my coaching, but I wrestle live with them. I drill with them. I wrestle live with them.
Wow.
So it's not like I wrestle on Mondays alone. No, I wrestle Monday mornings, and then I wrestle Monday nights.
Oh, wow.
You know what I mean? And so it's like, you know, sometimes 2 times a day, but I love it.
But do you feel like having that solid background as a child athlete and then getting those hands to where you want them to in the next couple of years is a lethal combination?
I do.
Like Ronda Rousey with her judo.
Yeah, and it's I cannot say it's an advantage, but if I can get those 2 things and make them, you know, seamless, I think, you know, you see it already. Who's having a lot of the success? You know, the wrestlers with good striking, the Johnny Hendricks, you know, the Chris Weidmans, you know, those kind of guys that are John Jones. Although, you know, he's a freakish athlete. You know what I mean? I honestly don't think he's that good at wrestling personally, but I think he's a phenomenal athlete, and he's got gifts from God. Right. You know, his reach and length and everything. But I do think if I can just get down my boxing and Muay Thai, I think I'll be a dangerous competitor.
Looking at your boxing, at least in your last fight where you fought our tight teammate John Robles, who's from here, your boxing looked very sharp. It was a nice uppercut. No, it was a hook.
Uppercut.
So right hook uppercut that you landed, and it looks like your boxing was very sharp, and you punch hard, which is very common with wrestlers, that you guys strike very, very hard because of, you know, the strength that you get from the wrestling. Now you're kind of the opposite. So you're opposite in many ways, but when it comes to the sport, you didn't have any athletic background growing up. Have you found your niche, so to speak? Is it that you're very all-rounded? Seems like from my sources at Black House as well that you're more of a striker, and obviously training with Anderson a lot as well. Do you see yourself as more of a striker?
Yeah, so the striking thing is that's just kind of like a natural talent that I discovered that I had.
You obviously punch hard from the knockouts.
Punch hard. But so I love to strike, and I can do it all day, but the training and everything is mostly wrestling. Not so much jiu-jitsu. I learned a lot of stuff for jiu-jitsu and basics, rice and beans.
Yeah.
But when it comes to wrestling, that's where I love to learn more. You know what I mean? So yeah, I train at Black House, and it's a great striking gym, and I train with Anderson, but those are almost just like hobbies. That when we strike, you know, it's like,
oh wow, that's a statement.
you get what I'm saying?
Right,
yeah, absolutely.
When I go with Lyoto, and like we're giving it our all, and Lyoto's one of the greatest strikers too. Right. But that's fun. That's because the both of us just naturally love to strike, and we, you know, make up stuff, and that's fun.
Right.
The real training is
Kenny Johnson
when I'm there
wrestling.
with Kenny, and we're going hours upon hours of training, and he's like, okay, now you're going with the guy, my friend Lou Polly, who's 280 pounds. he's like, okay, cool, you're going with Lou today. It doesn't look like there's
and
any.
Lou doesn't hold back. He doesn't care if you want
Lou doesn't
35.
hold back, and because Lou is my friend and he cares, he will lay on top of me and make me get up. So, you know, it's I guess it's a little bit of both, but I think that they're both equally important, you know.
So 5 years to retire. What do you want to accomplish within 5 years?
My goal is to get to the UFC middleweight belt undefeated.
Wow. That's a big statement. What about you?
He couldn't have said any better. I hate losing.
Middleweight?
No. That's you know, I see these guys, and you know, one of the cool things in wrestling is like, I don't know if you guys follow wrestling as much, but you know, like winning NCAA titles undefeated, you know, that was always like a goal of mine. You know, I fell short, way short, obviously, but being undefeated, there's just a higher power to it. You know what I mean? Not just winning the belt, but you're undefeated and you have that belt and you defend that belt multiple times, but you're still undefeated. You know, no one's been able to solve that riddle. You know, I like that, the way that the 0 stays at the end of your
The wrestler
record.
though, he did it. What's his name? I can't remember his name.
Cael
Just looked him
Sanderson.
up. Yeah. Did he ever lose?
No, one time. No, he was
He was
undefeated through college.
180,
Something like that.
150, 0.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I think more impressively is the kid that just did it. Well, there's two kids that just did it. Last year, or 2 years ago, a kid from Cornell won NCAA titles in 4 different weight classes.
Wow.
Now, that's unheard of. So he went, and Cornell, you don't redshirt. So you don't get a free year to train and stuff like that. That's what redshirting means. You go, as an 18-year-old kid, you're thrown in the lion's den, you know, you're thrown in the fire. So he wrestled 141, 149, 157, and 165, and he won it NCAs at all those weights. I think that's impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say so.
Definitely impressive.
You know what I mean? I would say about 80-90% of the college wrestlers that you get out of high school, and you know what weight you're going to be. So I was around 149, 141. That's what I was going to wrestle. This guy span, you know, almost 30 pounds.
That's insane.
Yeah.
So your goal is undefeated, 135 pound
Undefeated.
UFC champ.
I just want to fight some good dudes, like some high level dudes, and I'm so curious to how well I would do against those guys.
And that's the way to do it.
Yeah.
You have that 0, you get the greatest fights.
Yeah, right.
Right.
If you have that you can be 9-0, but they're gonna be like, all right, somebody's got to beat this kid.
Yeah,
already.
yeah.
Give him
this. Yeah.
Give him someone good.
Go
It's
to
like
the
perfect.
Sharks.
This
Yep.
is exactly what
Yeah,
I'm here.
that's what you want, though. You see all these people, like, you know, I want to fight the best guys. You know what I mean? Obviously, like in my career, I'm still on the up and up. I'm not like, you know, this guy that's gonna be calling out TJ.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I want to fight the best guys at my level. And then once I get I don't want to duck and dodge and do all that things. That's the whole reason I'm in this sport is to see if I'm really the best. You know,
To
what I
test
mean?
yourself.
Yeah, not just to be like, all right, I won the belt, you know, by default.
Right.
Yeah, I'll take it. No, I want to test myself. That's the whole thing.
I like the attitude from
too.
both of you, and can't wait to see you both in the cage in South Dakota, April 10th for RFA. Looking forward to seeing both of your careers. When do you fight next, Daria?
I think May 2nd.
May 2nd?
Yeah. Yeah.
Victorville?
Victorville. I have a title fight in August as well for CFL.
Cool.
Good old Victorville, huh?
Good old Victorville.
That's
Hey,
close to home, right?
you would believe the crowds they draw. Closer to his home, right?
Yeah,
Is it?
it's on the way.
I'm-
It's on the way.
I don't know why I'm saying anything. I'm from Sweden. I don't know anything about geography. Victorville is towards Arizona, I thought.
No, it's towards
Oh, is it?
Vegas.
Yeah,
Go
on
towards
the way to
Yeah.
Vegas.
Oh, okay. Well, April 10th, RFA in South Dakota. Looking forward to seeing both of you guys. Thank you very much for coming in.
I appreciate you
Thank
having
you
us.
so much.
Thanks, guys.